Is it worthless or is it worth it? Today we're going to look at bottom boards, and we're going to weigh the difference between a screen bottom board and a solid bottom board to see if it's worth having a screen bottom board. And it all starts right now. What's up? I'm David Burns, EAS Certified Master Beekeeper, with a video for you today on whether it's worth it or not. We're going to talk about the screen bottom board versus the solid bottom board. The first thing we're going to look at is the more common bottom board that we're seeing a lot of today, and that is the screen bottom board. I have an example of one here, and you can notice that the difference between a solid bottom board and a screen bottom board is exactly what you would think. One has a screen and one has a solid board on it. Now, what's the differences between the two as far as how they affect the colony? This one is a screen bottom board, and it also has an insert below it, like a little drawer that you pull out here, and out comes a little piece of corrugated plastic. And we traditionally think of these as a way to test for mites, although that is not the best way to test for mites. But in the first few years of rural mite, we decided that was a good way to kind of put some, Vaseline, something sticky on here, and then you would slide this into the bottom board, and over a couple of days you would see how many mites would fall through, and then you could slide it back out. And for a while we had it pretty complicated with little squares, and we would do calculations, and that would help us determine how many mites that we have in the hive. The reason I personally don't think that that's a good test method is because if your bees are very hygienic and they're dropping a lot of mites down, good grooming behavior, and they're dropping those mites down, it could be that you might see a lot down here but have fewer up on the bees themselves. On the other hand, if bees are not able to groom the mites off and you have a lot of mites up on the bees up above, but you look down here on the board, on the sticky board, and you really don't see any mites, you might conclude that you don't have any mites. Plus, there's always mites under the cap cells. By far, the best way to test for mites is either the powdered sugar, shake and roll them out and onto a paper plate and look at the mites, or you can use an alcohol wash. So that's one of the features of a screen bottom board is testing for mites. But since we don't do that anymore, we'll take that off the table, literally off the table. So that leaves us with a screen bottom board. What's the advantages of a screen bottom board versus a solid bottom board? There was a study done at the University of Georgia by Dr. Keith Delaplane and Dr. Jamie Ellis, and that study concluded that screen bottom boards actually do help control mites. They discovered about 14 to 15% advantage on mites falling through the screen bottom board. Now, that number is not enough to make us feel comfortable that a screen bottom board alone can control mites. It can be something in your toolbox. It can be something that will help. But if you can only get rid of 15% of the cockroaches in your kitchen, and that leaves 85% cockroaches in your kitchen, not enough, right? Same with the screen bottom board. But there's other advantages to it that I really do like, and mainly it's ventilation. A study also was done in Australia on the effectiveness of screen bottom boards and whether or not they worked against hives' productivity in honey production. And they found that hives with screen bottom board actually produce 15% more honey. Now, I'm going to guess and say that's probably because of extra ventilation, allowing the honey to be dried down more easily than if it's more sealed up and humid inside the hive. Just a wild guess, but a strong possibility that a screen bottom board may help the bees dry their honey down to 18 or 19% of moisture level on that honey. So, before I use screen bottom boards, my bees on a hot summer day like today would actually beard late afternoon all through the night. They sometimes would beard a foot or two out in front of the hive, and they were so hot that the bees had to actually leave the hive, a lot of them, just to get rid of the body heat so they could keep the inside of the hive not as humid and not as hot. So screen bottom boards allow better ventilation. Well, boom, what comes right to mind about that is winter time. Do you go through the winter with a screen bottom board? You know, I'm kind of mixed on this one. I do overwinter a lot of my hives with a screen bottom board, but I do wrap them all the way to the ground so there's not a lot of wind or cold breeze sweeping up onto that hive. And but I would say probably the best bet on a screen bottom board is to lay something in there during the winter. But I like to leave a little bit around the edge, maybe an inch or two around the edge. Like you could slide something like this piece of plastic, cut it so that it fits in here. It can lay right on top. It doesn't have to go underneath. Not all screen bottom boards have a drawer under the bottom. Slide it in so that you cover up the main part right under the cluster. And that might be a good aid for winter if you want to run your screen all winter long. So screen bottom boards do help mite control a tiny bit, and they do drastically improve ventilation in the summer. Now let's talk about a solid bottom board, but in all fairness, I'm going to go out to a hive and take one off of a hive because that way we can see kind of what's on the bottom of it and what the bees are doing to it. So let me suit up and I'll see how long it's going to take me to run out there, take the hive all the way apart, get down to the bottom, take the bottom board off, put the hive all the way back together, and then run back here. Go! Wow, okay, I made it back. That was a lot of work. I think I hurt my back for the 17th time. And here's the bottom board. What's interesting about this solid bottom board is there's not as much junk on it as I thought there would be. I thought I'd see dirty things like, I don't know, spiders and crickets and bugs and beer cans and soda pop wrappers and cheeseburger wrappers. You know how trash looks, but because this is the trash dump of the hive. We have a little bit of mildewing going on around the front of the bottom board just from the moisture. Notice how some of the propolis here has kind of purified this area here. I can tell they've propylized, or the natural dropping of propolis has kind of kept this wood from looking like the wood out here. There's some big blobs of propolis down on here. And to be honest with you, when I first took it off the hive, I saw a small hive beetle walking across. So I went boom, and I killed that small hive beetle. So one small hive beetle on the bottom. Notice how they've done a lot of propylizing the wood around the edges. That's pretty cool here. But all in all, it's pretty clean down here. Some people say solid bottom boards are dirty and trashy and don't look very good. And that's kind of true when you come out of winter, but not so much this time of the year. Now, what's the benefit of a solid bottom board? Well, I hope you're receiving value from my videos so far. If you like the content of this video, please give me a thumbs up. It gives me an idea what I can do to help you become a better beekeeper, making fewer mistakes and keeping healthier bees. Now, let's get right back to the video. Well, some people are going to argue that a solid bottom board allows more darkness and it's not as good to have that light of a screen bottom board. But here, you know, the hive is going to be able to probably make their brood nest closer down to the darkness of the colony because they don't have the light coming in on that screen bottom board. That's one argument, and that does make sense. On the other hand, I like the distance of being able to see mites fall out of the hive through a screen bottom board. If a mite falls here, it's going to walk around on a bottom board until a bee passes, and then it's going to jump on the leg of a bee and walk right back up into the cluster of bees up above. So the mites don't fall out. That you don't lose 15% of your mites. They stay on board. Solid bottom board does retain a lot of heat in the summertime, a lot of humidity. That's why you see a lot of bees that are bearding on these boxes with solid bottom boards in the summertime. So they do have a disadvantage of not allowing a good amount of ventilation in the summer. But you can always adjust that by opening up the entrance, putting a little quarter underneath your top cover to allow more ventilation. Now, students, this is all we had forever. When I first started beekeeping, I'd never heard of a screen bottom board. This is what they all were. But now we have the option of a screen bottom board instead of a solid bottom board. So I wanted to show you the difference, and we're going to ask the question, since this solid board has always been around, is the screen bottom board worth it? Is it worth it or is it worthless? Well, on my worth meter, and it's just my opinion, I'm going to once again say that a screen bottom board for me is 60% worth it and 40% worthless. So it is by far more worth it for me because I do like mites falling through. I can control the darkness by putting something on here in the winter time to allow less wind and air coming up. So I can adjust this, and I'm not leaving it up to a solid bottom board because that can retain a lot of heat and humidity in the summertime. Okay, so this is definitely, once again, worth it. We're going to have to find something that's not worth it. I have to find something that's worthless. So far, I've been giving a thumbs up to these things that I've showed you. Tomorrow, we're going to take a look at a refractometer. Is a refractometer worth it or is it worthless? I mean, how important is it that we measure our honey moisture level? Is it really worth doing that or just wait for them to seal it? I'll give you a worth it or worthless report on a refractometer tomorrow. Okay, here we go. We're going to pick our winner for the cowboy hat and veil, and we're going to pick the name at random. And wherever the cursor lands on, you're the winner. Oh, we have Tyler B. Woo! Woo! And our Instagram winner is Adam and Mary. I love what they wrote. Hi, Dave. We love you. We are brand new beekeepers here in New Hampshire. We do use an inner cover. We have one hive that we won in a contest, which is what started us in beekeeping. We plan to get one more hive in the near future. We do like using the inner covers. Thanks for all the help we get from your videos. And oh my gosh, you not only want a hive, now you want a hat and a veil. Congratulations to Adam and Mary. Well, thanks so much for watching my video today. And please subscribe, click on the bell so you'll be notified each time I make a new video. Do subscribe. Would you do that? Do a favor for me? I'll just sit here and wait until you hit the subscribe button. Okay, are you going to hit it? I mean, we need to move on. No, I'm kidding. But do subscribe. That way we can reach 100,000 subscribers by the end of this year. All right, I'm going to get back to work and make more videos for you. So thanks for watching. See you next time.